afternoon and welcome to TSNN's monthly webinar series. Today's webinar will discuss what everyone ought to know about effectively using online and hybrid events. You can submit a question at any time during the session, so please join in. Alternatively, you can join the conversation and ask questions on Twitter at #TSNNwebinar. And now, Arlene Schoes, Marketing Manager for TSNN, would like to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. Here at TSNN, we're excited about getting educated on the how-tos for effectively using online and hybrid events. We're lucky enough to have the perfect professionals to educate us today, so thanks for tuning in. A big thanks to our sponsor today, OnStream Media. They once again continue to help us deliver these educational topics to you. All TSNN webinars, as a matter of fact, are brought to you by OnStream Media, the leader in multimedia webinar and webcasting services. Their technology can help you get better results for your own organization. OnStream's virtual event solutions can connect you with colleagues and customers, extend the value of your events, and boost profits. Webinars and webcasts provide a platform for branded virtual events that can enhance the value of a live show or operate as single revenue-generating events. For a free demo and to learn more about how OnStream webinars and webcasts bring measurable ROI, visit onstreammedia.com. Now allow me to introduce two leading experts who will be speaking today. Susan Friedman, Certified Speaking Professional, is an internationally recognized expert and how-to coach who has traveled the world helping companies put their best foot forward at trade shows and events. Known as the Trade Show Coach, Susan offers trade show training programs to increase results and focus on building better relationships with customers, prospects, and advocates in the marketplace. Michael Doyle is the founder of Virtual Edge Institute, an industry organization dedicated to advancing the development and the adoption of digital solutions for events, meetings, and learning programs. He launched the Virtual Edge Summit, the leading hybrid event serving the industry, and is a frequent consultant to companies wanting to map digital experiences to their portfolio of physical events. We can't wait to get started. Susan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and welcome to everybody for this very exciting session where Michael and I want to give you as much information as we can in the short time that we have together. And most importantly, get your questions answered. So please make sure that if you do have questions, you put it in the chat. We want to do that throughout the program. Even though virtual events have been around for many years now, they're becoming more mainstream. But despite that, there's still, a little bit of a mystery, there's a misunderstanding, and even some fear about using them. So the way we'd like to conduct this session today is to highlight some learning points through conversation, where Michael and I will be picking each other's brains. I hate that expression, but hey, Michael. And so that you can learn some practical strategies and hopefully immediately put those into practice. But first, let's do some engagement so that we have a sense of who's with us here today. And we have a poll for you to start us off. And the poll is to literally tell us what type of organization do you work for. Give you a few minutes just to type in your response. Gives us a good sense of who we have there in the audience. God, it's pretty level so far. Okay. Give you another couple of seconds to respond. 3, 2, 1. And I'm going to end the poll and share the results with you. So, Michael, look at that. Association, corporate, and service providers. Very even.
Good
there.
Mix.
A very nice mix. That's wonderful. So before we get into it again, I've got another poll for you, and that is to say, when it comes to online events and hybrids, do you consider yourself a beginner or more experienced? Lots of beginners, Michael.
Okay, good.
We've got a few experienced Okay, 3, 2, 1, and let's end the poll. And there we go. We've got a lot of beginners. So
good.
That's great. It really is, and I really hope that you will ask questions, because that's when you get to learn a lot more. So let's move right into understanding these words that we're using. First of all, online events. And you may have heard them referred to as digital events or virtual events. They're all the same thing. And what it is that people gathering together and they're connected in a common environment, which is usually through a computer and on the internet. These events could be described as a digital experience. Virtual events bridge that gap when people need to connect, but time and money is of the essence. Let's look at a few different types of events that there are, because, these events can promote education, communication, collaboration, or training. And they come in all different shapes and sizes, as you can see. A lot depends on the event that you have, depends on your audience, and obviously your message as to which one is the right one to use. As for hybrid events, well, that's a combination of a physical and a digital event, and often run simultaneously with overlapping content. The beauty of a hybrid event is it can complement an existing event. So if you're either an association or if you're an exhibitor, you can do both. You can be part of the virtual event, or you can be involved in the physical one. It's going to give the event longevity. So as an exhibitor, you're around longer in front of people who may not be able to attend a physical event. And that's the whole beauty of these virtual events, because they extend the reach, and attendees from around the globe can participate. And I know we've got people from different parts of the world on this program today, and if this had been live, they wouldn't necessarily have been able to participate. So it's wonderful that we can do that. Michael, anything else to add on any of those?
No, I think you did a great job. And by the way, I just love listening to your voice and your accent. So I may just let you do most of the talking today. So.
You're going to make me work for my money. Thank you.
Exactly.
For those of you, I know we're gathered all over the States, and as we said, all over the world. I'm in upstate New York, and Michael is out there in, what is it? Is it San Francisco, California? Where are you exactly?
I'm just out there. Let's put it that way.
You're just out there. You're in you're in California somewhere.
I'm in the Bay Area. So yeah.
You're in the Bay Area. Okay, wonderful. So let's get right in and focus on mistakes. I think that's always a great place to start. We all make mistakes. I make them, you make them, Michael makes them, But let's look at some common mistakes that are often made in this environment. So, Michael, I know that you feel very strongly about the first mistake, being unclear about business objectives. Give us your take on that.
Sure, absolutely. And I also want to just reiterate that you can ask questions at any time, and we're looking forward to that. And, we do want to address specific issues that people have, or specific questions that people have, so that you have that little chat bubble in the top right there, so you can just submit those anytime you want, or use the hashtag as well. We have people monitoring that as well. So, I think this is my one of the things that I come back to time and time again with organizations that I work with, or try to help out, with their problems that they're having, and it could be organizations that are brand new to this, or it's people who have been doing this for quite some time, and what happens is that they get caught up in technology or some other aspect of the event, and they kind of lose sight of what their original business objectives were for the event, for the program that they're putting together. And I can't really emphasize enough that you need to start there. You need to start in terms of your planning for whatever kind of engagement you're going to ultimately do, with a strong sense of the objectives and the goals of the program, because that's going to really come back and guide every decision that you make throughout the entire process of planning and producing that that engagement. And but like I say, quite often people forget about that, and they get caught up in something else, and they start chasing the next shiny object out there, and they lose sight of what it is that they're really trying to achieve with that program. And to me, that's the main thing, is to be able to establish what that is, make sure everybody understands that, communicate that throughout the entire organization, and then use that as a guide to go through the planning process. And it's just like a physical event. Your online extension or your online only event, you need to go through the process of identifying who your audience is, what you need to know about them in terms of how they're going to interact with this program, with this content, with one another, what kind of devices they use, whether it's mostly mobile or it's desktop or combination of those, and how they're likely to engage with either others out there or with the program that's going on. You need to look at and have a plan for your content. What content are you going to be streaming? What content are you going to be capturing? And why? And what you're going to do with that content, not only during the live event, but subsequent to that. How are you going to either monetize it or use it to drive other initiatives that tie back to those original objectives? Same thing with your marketing program, and eventually you get to the technology side of things and whatnot. But that, to me, that's the area that we see people struggle all the time. And it's not just with their digital or their virtual event program or their online event program. It's also with things like mobile. We're working with an organization right now that had gone through this process and had very good objectives and understood what they wanted to do with their mobile strategy. But once they got into it, they started to look at all of the different features and functionalities that are available out there, and kind of lost sight of of their original objectives, and didn't have as successful a deployment with their mobile strategy, and now we're working with them to get them back on track. So it happens to everybody, but I can't emphasize enough that that's where you really need to start with this.
Yeah, and I'm so thrilled that you said that, because it's so funny. Ever since I've been doing training for over 30 years now, I hate to admit that, but that's the first thing, is that, establishing the reason that you want to go, starting with that end in mind. What do you want to achieve? And as you rightly say, this is going to be your foundation, and you're going to build on that. And whether it's a virtual event or whether it's a physical event, the same thing applies. And you rightly said, this is the foundation. You're going to build your marketing from what it is that you want to achieve before, during, and after the show. I've got an example, and Michael, if you want to walk us through, I know that you do a lot of work with PCMA, and I thought this was a really nice example of clear, concise goals. Do you want to just quickly walk us through this?
Sure. I will say that there is a session, I believe, that was done at AIBTM recently that I did that one of the Mary Reynolds Kane from PCMA spoke at and kind of walked through in more detail what the program was that and the objectives were for PCMA. And if you go to the AIBTM, I think it's AIBTMamerica.com or something like that. If you search for that, you'll find that, and I believe they have those sessions up and available, recordings of those at least, and you'll be able to get more information about this. But PCMA is a very good example of an organization that I think went through this process the right way. They started out not looking at the technology, but looking at what the business drivers were for them to get involved in producing a hybrid extension of their event. And for them, some of the goals were really to take their education, their fantastic education from their various events that they do, and make that available to their members who can't attend their in-person events. So that was, kind of the number one thing. Another thing that they wanted to do, being an organization that focuses primarily on providing education, training, and leadership in the convention industry, was also to be out there and show people really, the proper way to address this and the proper way to execute on this. So that was another goal that they had, and and I think what we've seen there is, and it's a good model, that I like to see in other organizations. They didn't try to jump in and boil the ocean and do everything the very first time out. They took a more prescriptive kind of, build the foundation, grow from there, and continue to grow event after event and year after year. And that's where we really see organizations that really are successful at this. It's very difficult to go out there and jump in and try to do everything. It's much easier to get started, do a smaller program, and experience, the whole process, the planning, production, and also the engagement level of both the in-person audience as well as the online audience. And PCMA, just to kind of wrap it up and not take too much time on this, has gone from doing a hybrid extension to the point now where they have a perpetual environment where they are not only taking content from their events and putting it in that environment and promoting the access to those sessions, but they're also running their webinars and webcasts in there. I think they're looking at doing chapter meetings in this environment, and then of course when it comes to their larger events, they're live streaming into that environment. So they've kind of progressed nicely in a orderly and very defined and architected manner, I think.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I just looked at the questions, Michael, and one of them here is a question to see if a show uses virtual, does it take away attendance from the live one? There's that concern and fear from that.
Yeah.
And,
well, that's a definitely a legitimate question. What we found, and I haven't found any other, contrary evidence, but what we've found throughout the last 5-6 years of doing these kinds of things is that It is only additive. It does not cannibalize at all the physical attendance. Now, we've had organizations that have studied this, and tracked it pretty accurately, and from day one, and they've seen parallels to their growth in online attendance to their growth in in-person attendance. And what happens is people who aren't necessarily totally committed to going to an event, to making that big expenditure of travel, time, all of that, to be able to experience the event, and then in PCMA's case, since we're talking about them, they found that 17% of the people who attended their online event in 2011 to 2012 ended up attending their event in person the following year, the following session, and I believe in 2012 to 2013 they had a similar, if not greater, conversion of those people. And Cisco Live is another organization that tracks that pretty heavily, and they've seen more like almost 30% of the people convert to that.
Interesting. And there's always going to be a group of people who are not able to attend because of distance, but it still allows them to participate. In any event, let's move on to another mistake, and that is one with regard to failing to use the right technology. One of the things that you said earlier, Michael, was the fact that the newest shining object that people jump on, and it isn't necessarily the right one to use. So how would we know which one would be the right one to use for what we want to achieve?
Well, this goes back to to the original concept that we talked about, which is really understanding and having a plan for every aspect of your event, your content strategy, your engagement strategy. How are you going to engage with these people? Even your monetization strategy, because if you have sponsors, or if you have perhaps online exhibitors, or those kinds of people who are participating in the event and that you're relying on, those are going to be things that really dictate the kinds of solutions that you need to produce your event. And a lot of times what we find is that people start looking at the technology and going out and doing an RFI and bringing in vendors of various technologies, and starting there. And they run into the problem of selecting a technology and then realizing that it either doesn't have the capabilities that they need to engage their audience, or their content strategy isn't going to match that. And so to me, the process of selecting and really looking at technology comes kind of well into the cycle where you've really got a good understanding of what this event is going to look like, what you want who your attendees are going to be, how technology savvy are they, what kind of environments are they going to respond well in, and then you can start really looking at the technology solutions out there.
Yeah, I think an important point is the sophistication of the audience. These new shiny objects might look very nice, but if you're dealing with a target audience who isn't at all tech savvy, it's totally wasted on them. So, as you say, knowing that audience and knowing how tech-savvy they are is going to be very, very important when you do decide which is the right technology to use for the event. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah,
and I was just going to say too that I know Randy and Patty, a couple people in the audience there, are looking for more information on that and some data. If you go to the virtualedgeinstitute.com, that's the virtualedgeinstitute.com, and also engage365.org. I think you'll find some not only reports and studies there, but also some good good articles and how-to information there, good resources.
Yeah, there's some phenomenal resources there. Do check them out. You want to give those addresses again?
So engage365.org and then virtualedgeinstitute.com.
Excellent, because those are really great resources. So the third and final mistake that we've got, not that it's the only mistake, but is the fact that creating buzz. Often, and I've seen it happen over and over again, and I know you have too, Michael, is that people build it and hope people will come, and that's not necessarily the case if you don't do anything to help promote it. I mean, it was just like this event, we were talking to Arlene earlier, all the different ways in which we reached out to the community, both yours, mine, TSNN's community, and through emails, through tweets and LinkedIn, and I think we've used everything just to help create the buzz to get people to know about the event. And in the same way, you're going to have to do that with whatever event you hold. You want to comment on any of that, Michael?
Yeah, this is another area that I feel very, very strongly about, and it's an area that people can go through the entire planning process and do a wonderful job at that and produce a phenomenal event. But it gets down to the marketing of it. If you don't market the event properly, if you don't market it, continuously and throughout all of the channels that you have at your disposal, including all of your partners, sponsors, industry relationships and whatnot, it's going to fail. And and that's one of the things that you really have to have a very serious discussion about before you decide to pull the trigger on this. So once you've identified what the objectives are that you want to achieve for the organization and for the program, I think another, the next area is really to have, serious conversations about are we going to be able to market this, and are we going to commit to marketing this? And that's going to come depending on your organization, from the very highest levels. If you're in corporate, and larger organization where it's quite often fairly difficult for people to get access to the customers and to the marketing channels there. You really need to have that buy-in and commitment before you pull the trigger on the event and start into production.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There's a question up there about the effectiveness of the attendee marketing for a virtual event versus a live event. I think you can do many of the same types of marketing using marketing tools, especially now with social media. You can do a few more things with a live event if you want to go back to the good old faithful direct mail. But social media is such a blessing now in terms of ways in which you can connect. I think the only thing with that is, again, the sophistication of your audience and who is tuning into which social media, so using the right social media for the right audience. Your thoughts on that, Michael?
Well, I think, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about social media a little bit later, but I think you're absolutely right. And one thing that needs to be said too is that when it comes to an online event, research has shown that people wait until the last minute before they commit to it, and that's a good thing and that's a bad thing. It's a good thing because TSNN could do a promotion right now and still get people to attend because they don't have to travel someplace. So there's that part of it. But there's also, you need to have the conviction once you put your plan in place and your marketing efforts in place. You need to, have a steady hand on the tiller and not get too worried about registration not coming in because at least in the free event side of things, online event side of things, the research that folks like On24 and other organizations that really look at this and do thousands and thousands of online programs out there. The research shows that you're really looking at the last 2 weeks before people really jump in and register and commit to the event. So so that's something to keep in mind.
As you said, it's scary because up until the last minute, you're never sure how many people are going to be attending. Yeah. And obviously there's a difference between whether it's going to be a free event or whether it's a paid event. I always find that there's obviously much more commitment when some money has passed through hands. But let's talk more about this whole concept of engagement. Obviously, the buzzword around now is engagement and how to engage with your target audience. And as we know, we've got all sorts of tools through through social media. We don't want to rely on them 100%. And again, depends which one you use based on your target audience. Different ways in which you can drive engagement. Contests, we know, are now becoming very popular if you want to win something. Your QR codes, and by the way, those of you who've got a QR reader on your phone or on your iPad, check out the one that's up here for you because there is a message embedded in there. And so you can see what that says. And then, of course, polls, as we've done some polling. Let's, in fact, go and have a look at another poll, and talk about social media. Let's put this poll up. And this poll is, what social media do you use before, during and after the show before and at the show, to create some buzz to attract attendees to your booth?
I think you're going to find Twitter pretty strong.
I know. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Yeah, Twitter's leading. It's like a race here. Twitter, Facebook, Twitter. LinkedIn. Come on, LinkedIn. Let's get a few more votes in there. Okay, and 3, 2, 1, let's end the poll. And yeah, you're right. I mean, Twitter did definitely make it first over the finish line. It's so easy to use, Twitter. So yeah.
Yeah, so, one thing I would say about that is, it comes down to that process of really understanding your audience and understanding what social media they're currently engaged with, and obviously that's where you want to focus. Go where the fish are. And if your event is more of a business to consumer, B2C type of event, probably Facebook is could be very, very powerful for you. If it's a hardcore B2B event, then you're probably going to find more success with a LinkedIn campaign than a Facebook. And social media does take a lot of resources to really do right. So you have to make some choices and not try to be everywhere. Unless of course that's where your audience is. And one other thing I'd say about engagement, and then we should probably move on, but there's the aspect of engaging before the event, and then there's the aspect of engaging during the event. And I think there's some great techniques and tools to engage audiences during the event. And both, people who are in the room, which is very important, and people who are remote. And you have tools like Poll Everywhere and Nice Meeting, things like that, where you can actually, have a slide up there with that poll, like we just looked at there, and it's in the room, and people have either their laptop or their tablet or their mobile device, and they can use that to answer the poll questions. And it could be simple yes or no multiple choice, or it could be open-ended questions. And as the response comes in, the people in the room see that slide change, and they see the response coming in. And the great thing about that is that all the people who are remote, if you're using a streaming technology that takes the VGA video feed from the projector or from the presenter's computer, they're going to see everything that's up on that screen in the room. So there's two different ways people do it. Sometimes you've got to submit slides in advance, and somebody pushes the slides. Well, then you're not going to see any video or these kinds of interactive engagement tools if you're a remote attendee. So that's one thing. The other thing is that it's a great way to having that online audience. There's fantastic ways that you can sit down and engage directly with the online audience, especially if you're doing projects or something within the actual session room itself, where people are in groups and they're discussing something. You can go off and have a separate session and include the remote attendees as well, using the technology. So there's a lot of different type of engagement tools, and of course Twitter is one that that works for the remote audience as well as the people in the room.
Exactly, and as we see, many of the people who are on the session today use Twitter. Interestingly, we've got a question that said, is there a maximum number of attendees for a meaningful interactive virtual event? I think a lot would depend on what it is that you want to achieve and how much interaction you want. But I'm not sure that I know that there's a maximum or minimum or an optimum number. What do you think?
Well, it's one of those things that it's a good question, first of all, because you do based on the volume of people that you have. Let's say you have thousands of people who are attending the event remotely online. Then and it's very interactive. It's going to be very hard to say follow the chat that's like we have here. There's going to be so many submissions that the chat screen is just going to continue to scroll, and it's going to be very hard to keep up with that and really interact with that audience that way. Whereas if you have a smaller audience, it's going to be much easier to do, like we have today. But that's one of the things where you have to set up in advance. Know what you're likely going to have from an audience size standpoint, and what you want them to experience from an engagement standpoint and an interactive standpoint. And some organizations, that have very big events, with thousands of people throughout the world on different time zones that are participating in this, they have fairly sophisticated listening posts and teams that are managing the interaction, that are moderating chats and tweets and what people see. So I agree that there's no particular minimum or maximum, but you have to have that plan based on the size of your event and your audience and their location and their bandwidth and their all of these factors are going to play into how you're going to plan and manage that interaction.
And I think that's a really good point that sort of segues very nicely into the first point of best practices, and that is creating that listening platform overall and sort of not jumping in too quickly. And so you mentioned that. So I think listening is so important, listening to your target audience, what are some of the issues that they're having, asking them questions, open-ended questions, getting their feedback, getting their interaction, and making it a dialogue as opposed to a monologue. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's also a way to reach people. Not just one of the harder things to do with a remote audience, in an online event is to reach them on some kind of emotional level, and being able to recognize them. One organization that we work with does a really good job of taking and monitoring the chats, and then the way that we're looking at the screen right now, you would see a little bubble come up, and it would be the name of the person and their comments and their chats, and that person would feel the recognition. But what it also does is it also when they do that, they see a spike in other people chatting. It's just like at an in-person event, it's during the Q&A or something. It's sometimes a little awkward at the beginning until somebody starts, and then people, really start to flow. And it's similar to that. So being able to use the technology to reach people and recognize people, and I would say just the whole digital, portfolio of engagement tools, should really be looked at as a way to drive audience awareness. Whether it's a virtual audience or online audience, or it's an in-person audience. It's all about being able to drive that awareness, create that personal connection, and make an emotional connection with people.
And you're so wonderful about the segue business, because this is like leveraging another, best practice is, of course, leveraging your social media before, during, and after the show. Some of the things that you can use, those QR codes, we've talked about the contest, creating events on LinkedIn and Facebook. One of the things that I'm very involved in the National Speakers Association, and we've got a big annual convention coming up next week, in fact, in Philadelphia. And what they've been doing for the past, I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks, there's been a free seminar being run by some of the keynote speakers. So each week there's a different keynote speaker who's doing a free seminar. Obviously, you've got to get the buy-in from the speaker to be able to do that for you, but it's a nice way to build that buzz before the event of something that's going to happen. And of course, always offering incentives to when you come to the event. I think that's always helpful. Have you seen anything else that works? Well, content marketing, of course. We haven't mentioned content marketing, but content marketing is just so valuable, and people can't put enough stuff out there, but make sure that it's worthwhile if you're going to put it out there.
Yeah, my only, everybody is aware of social media and the power of that it can bring to to your marketing message, to your ability to build, a digital relationship or a digital bridge to your customers, prospects, attendees, members, etc. My only thing about that is just, you look at that slide there, and that's just a little teeny piece of the social media spectrum.
Exactly.
You've really got to understand where your social media, kind of heat spots are, and where your people are going, to get this kind of information, get this kind of connection, and focus on those rather than trying to do a little in everything.
Yes. I mean, again, it's knowing your target audience. Where is your target audience? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Facebook? Mm-hmm. Are they on Twitter? Where are they? Because that's the way that you're going to reach them. And it doesn't mean, again, I know that when social media started several years ago, it was this big shiny object that everybody thought, oh my goodness, this is the answer to all our prayers, and all you have to do is to put out some social media again, and people are going to react. And we know mm-hmm. that that's not the case. It's just another tool to use, but you've got to know how you need to use it. And again, if you do stuff at the event, can you do some video? Can you do some different interviews? What can you do? Can you do some contests? I'm going to give everybody a challenge now, and that is the first 20 people to mention this webinar in a tweet. And remember, the hashtag is #TSNN webinar. Those of you who mention this webinar in a tweet now, let me know that you did at Susan@thetradeshowcoach.com, and I will send you a copy of a special report on virtual events. So that's just something to get people involved, which is what it's all about, isn't it? It's just getting mm-hmm. people involved. And another best practice we know is this whole gamification that's out there. This is not necessarily something I know a whole lot about, but it's out there. And if you want to use it, it's a way to acknowledge people. Talk to us a little bit more about that. What do you know about it, Michael? I feel totally, inept about it, but I know it exists. I know people use it, and I know it's right for a certain target audience. It's not right for everybody.
Sure, and I think that's the again, it's part of planning your engagement strategy with your audience, and you will find that based on the demographics and habits and practices of your particular segments of your audience, you find that some people may be more inclined to participate in various kinds of contests and games and challenges and whatnot, and be motivated by different things. One of the things that we do see kind of across the board is when you're able to get people into some kind of teams, and you're able to create a team challenge, then the adoption and engagement tends to be significantly higher than on an individual basis. But again, it's depends on the audience segment that that you're working with, and I think there's still a lot of innovation in this area that is going to continue to come, and technologies will impact the kinds of options that people have, and I think it's going to be an area that continues to grow, but it's one of those things where you have to really look at whether it's right for your audience,
if it's right for you, exactly.
Yeah, and what it is that you're trying to get from that. So.
There's an excellent question that's just come up, Michael. Do you have any stories or case studies where a B2B relationship started virtually and then built to a solid face-to-face relationship? I think that's phenomenal. And do you have anything, off the bat, or is this...
Say that again?
Do you have a case study where a B2B relationship started virtually and then built to a solid face-to-face relationship?
It sounds, looking at that from an individual standpoint, I have, one I have several anecdotal ones, but, when we did the Virtual Edge Summit, and we did it in the Bay Area, we had people that started out registered online, were attending online, and because of their location and because they were able to attend the event and see, the speakers and the topics and experience, the event online, during the morning, left and came and participated in the event in person in the afternoon. So, on an individual basis, there's some anecdotes like that, and that also can work. There was another organization that had a similar type of situation. They were up in Canada, and people that they invited people that were attending online to participate in person the next day, and they got a good number of people who took them up on that, and came. In general, though, I think if you're looking at it from a broader perspective, there's lots of research that shows that establishing and beginning that relationship online often leads to a more in-depth and personal relationship. And actually, I think it's either Gartner or Forrester has a report. I think it's Forrester.
I think it's Forrester too. Now that you say that, I seem to remember that one. So maybe I can do some research and send that out to the people who participated. Before we run out of time, Michael, I know that one of the things that is really key, and that is what's out there in the future. What can people expect? I know technology is advancing, by leaps and bounds, and probably as we speak, things are being invented.
Sure. Well, I would say
what do you see?
Well, I would say that certainly mobile has only just begun. The impact of mobile technology for the event industry, whether it's for people who are attending the event in person or people who are attending remotely, that is going to continue to be a leading factor, and a lot of innovation around the ability of people to connect with the event and connect with people at the event through their mobile devices. So a lot of the convention centers are scrambling to invest more and more in their digital capabilities. So that certainly is one thing that is going to continue. You have things like Google Glass and augmented reality. You haven't seen that, of course, have much of an impact at this point yet in the events industry. Right.
That's right.
But that's certainly something that's on the horizon. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we'll see whether it's Google Glass or some other type of interface device that is ubiquitous and allows for really an augmented experience. I think the other thing is real-time analytics and just the ability for a for getting more data about what's going on at the event and why. And people often, say, well, what do you mean by that? So, and again, these are things that aren't here today, but it could. So, we're kind of projecting, how could you use the ability to, to look at real-time data. And one example, I give is that let's say that your sponsors or exhibitors are able to, look at Q&A that's happening in a session, that's happening in another part of the building. And they're seeing, maybe the topic is fracking and all of the questions are about how do you purify water or treat water or, handle water, through this process. And if you're an exhibitor that has a solution there, well, maybe, you can, look at that and say, okay, I want to change my electronic signage at my booth to really focus on, that kind of solution. Or maybe I want to, sign up online here to buy some digital signage throughout the event, or I want to sponsor, every fracking session, the after session surveys. I want to sponsor those and make offers to people to help them, find a solution to that problem. So I think there's going to be much more interactivity, and you're going to see kind of what's happening from a digital standpoint. If you look at the digital marketing side of things, that industry today, and how that's changing how people market. Being able to get that real-time information, that's going to impact the event industry as well. And of course, nobody's sure exactly how, but it'll be it'll be for the better.
Yeah, and I quickly skip through a couple of slides because I know that you'd mentioned sponsorship and the whole ability to generate some income with that. We're fast running out of time, and I want to say one pearl of wisdom. If you were to leave our attendees with one pearl of wisdom, what would that be? In a nutshell.
Well, I would
I'm
say
making
that
it tough for you.
Yeah, well, it's actually somewhat easy. I think that you need to have the skill, the digital skill, the digital strategy, and there is the digital event strategist certification and training program that's out there offered by the Virtual Edge Institute, and you really need, and I'm it's not just us, but there's been major research that's been done on a global basis by IMEX that has shown that that is going to be one of the most important functions, capabilities that face-to-face event producers need to have on their team, or access to to that kind of skill level to be successful and in the future. So it's only a part of what face-to-face events and hybrid events are all about, but it's going to be more and more important as time goes on.
And I'll reiterate that, and also the fact, going back to knowing what it is that you want to achieve and then building on that. I mean, if I was to leave, you with that pearl of wisdom, that would be it. And this has been phenomenal, Michael. Thank you. And to all our attendees, I have a special thank you that I'm going to offer every single one of you who would like a 20-minute complimentary coaching call with me. Email me at Susan@TheTradeShowCoach, and we can discuss digital, we can discuss physical, and if we want to tap into some of Michael's expertise, maybe we can. Michael, you've been amazing. Thank you. Thank you to TSNN. Thank you to everybody for attending this session. It has been recorded, and you can check back on tsnn.com/webinars for the recording of this session. So everyone, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Please email me at Susan@thetradeshowcoach with any other questions, and I will be able to field them with Michael as well. So Michael, thank you, and thank you to TSNN.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks everybody for participating in this. And I know we had some other questions here that we didn't get to, so I'm happy to respond to folks. Just let me know, Susan, what questions you have.
Yes, and if you've got questions, please tweet them to me, tweet them to Michael, or as I said, send them to me at susan@thetradeshowcoach.com. And again, thank you to everyone for participating, and to TSNN for hosting, and to OnStream Media for their sponsorship. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Susan. Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude today's teleconference. We thank you for your participation. You may disconnect your lines at this time, and have a great day.